She stood there like she owned the valley, arms crossed, clipboard in hand. That stupid fake badge swinging from her neck like she was some kind of law. "You can't be doing construction without HOA approval," she barked, eyes glued to the beams I was hauling. I didn't even stop working. Just looked her dead in the eye and said, "Lady, this barn's older than your HOA, and probably smarter too." It was the third time this week. She came with different excuses every time. First, it was noise. Then, historic preservation violations. Today, unauthorized modifications. But the barn, 150 years old, hand-raised by my great-grandfather, was falling apart. I was fixing it before the snow buried us again. No permits, no new walls. Just restoring what was already mine. 10 minutes later, 2 squad cars pulled up, lights flashing, neighbors watching, and Karen, yeah, that's what everyone called her, grinning like she'd just won something. One officer stayed near the cruiser, the other approached slow, hand resting near his belt. "Sir, we received a call about illegal construction. Can I see your paperwork?" I handed him the deed instead, not a copy. The original, leather-bound, signed in ink that probably predates the town charter. "This land's been in my family since 1874. No HOA existed when this barn was built. It doesn't govern my parcel." Karen pushed forward, all fake confidence. "He's lying. Our bylaws clearly cover this entire zone. Section 3.14 states." "That's funny," I said, cutting her off, "because the zoning board says otherwise." "Want me to pull that email up too?" The cop raised an eyebrow. "You have correspondence from the zoning board?" I nodded. Karen's smile slipped. And just then, something behind the cruiser caught my eye. A man in a county jacket, walking fast up the drive, radio clipped to his shoulder. Utility crew. Not part of this scene, unless someone had messed with the wrong system, which they had, and they were about to find out what that meant. Karen didn't see him at first. She was too busy whispering something to the officer, probably doubling down on her imaginary rules. But the utility guy kept walking right past the cruisers, past the property line marker she'd tried to move last year, and straight toward me. "You Samuel Brooks?" he asked, glancing at a tablet in his hand. I nodded. "Yeah, why?" He flipped the screen toward me. "You filed a request to reroute primary grid lines from the old North Circuit, right?" Karen whipped around like she'd been slapped. "Wait, what? What's he talking about?" I smiled. "That's the part you never checked, Karen. I don't just own this land. I lease the power grid that runs through it. Long-term agreement from 1989, grandfathered rights. Your HOA's entire backup loop runs under my field." Her face went pale. The officer glanced between us. "Wait, you control the secondary line? For this area?" "Not control," I said calmly. "Maintain. And reroute when needed for safety reasons. Like, say, when someone repeatedly harasses the landowner and delays necessary repairs." Karen stepped forward, her voice cracking. "You can't do that. The HOA pays fees for that line. It's shared infrastructure." "Exactly, which means any disruption affects everyone," I said. "And I just filed the formal notice this morning. That barn restoration, it's phase 1. Phase 2 involves trenching and rerouting. It might lose power across your block. For what did they say?" "Yeah, ... up to 6 days." Her jaw dropped. "You can't. That's extortion." "No," the utility man cut in, tapping his ID. "That's infrastructure maintenance. And it's legal. We've already approved it." The silence that followed was thick. Karen looked like she'd swallowed a nail. The officer took a step back, suddenly realizing this wasn't just a noise complaint anymore. And then, as if the universe had timed it perfectly, the lights flickered across the neighborhood. Just once, but enough. Karen's face twisted. Mine didn't, because this wasn't revenge. This was just the start. By the next morning, the neighborhood group chat was on fire. People were panicking, asking why their HVAC systems were glitching, why water heaters weren't staying on, why backup batteries were draining faster than normal. Someone even posted a photo of their fridge thermometer showing milk at 55 degrees. Karen, of course, went silent. The woman who usually posted HOA reminders 3 times a day hadn't typed a single word since yesterday, but I was busy. Busy marking fresh trench lines. Busy stacking lumber for the barn's new beams. Busy preparing for the next phase because I'd warned them, and they didn't listen. Around noon, a silver Tesla pulled up fast in front of my place. Guy in slacks and a loosened tie jumped out, waving his arms before he even shut the door. "You, Samuel? You filed the reroute request?" I nodded without slowing down. "Who's asking? Jeremy Cross?" "I'm on the HOA executive committee." Of course he was. He didn't waste time. "Look, man, I think there's been a misunderstanding. Karen, well, she wasn't acting on behalf of the full board. We didn't authorize any police involvement. That was her." I dropped the shovel, leveled my eyes at him. "And the fake violation slips taped to my gate? That her too?" He winced. "Probably. Look, we're just asking for a delay. We've got elderly residents, kids, medical equipment that can't go offline for days." I let that hang because he wasn't wrong, but they hadn't cared when. Karen was harassing me daily for doing basic repairs on my own property. Now it was their comfort on the line. Suddenly things were urgent. Still, I didn't want people suffering, so I nodded slowly. "I'll delay phase 2. His shoulders relaxed. "Thank you. Seriously, if I interrupted. Karen shows up here today, in front of everyone, and apologizes. Publicly, he blinked.
Hi, Kitty.
This didn't start with me. It started when she thought she could run this place like a queen with no crown. And people let her. Jeremy looked like he was calculating every outcome. Then finally he sighed. "I'll call her." I didn't smile, because she wouldn't come quietly, but she would come. She showed up 2 hours later, same pastel blazer, same phony badge, but this time, no clipboard, no backup.
Ow.
No smug smile either. Just stiff steps and a twitch in her eye like she was trying to hold control that had already slipped through. Her fingers. A small crowd had gathered near my bar neighbors, who never made eye contact before, and pretending they were just out for a walk. Phones out, whispering, recording. Jeremy stood off to the side, arms folded, clearly not thrilled but not stopping her either. Karen took one look at me and hesitated. I didn't say a word. She cleared her throat, loud enough for everyone to hear. "I just want to address what happened yesterday." I leaned against a fence post and waited. "I may have overstepped," she continued. Her voice cracked a little. "The HOA guidelines are sometimes interpreted too strictly, and I understand that my actions caused inconvenience for Mr. Brooks and perhaps others. For that I apologize." Nobody clapped. Nobody cheered. But you could feel that something broke in that moment. That quiet grip. She held on the neighborhood. It cracked. People had seen behind the curtain, and they weren't scared anymore. I nodded once, appreciated. She turned to leave, but I wasn't done. "One more thing, Karen." She froze. "If I see another unauthorized notice, threat, or attempt to block my restoration work, I won't file a complaint." She turned slowly, confusion in her eyes. "I'll file a civil lawsuit. It's interference with utility infrastructure, harassment, possibly impersonation of enforcement personnel. And since I've already got the footage, I'd say the odds are in my favor." That landed. She said nothing, just walked back to her car, keys shaking in her hand. The crowd lingered after she drove off, quiet murmurs. Little nods, someone even clapped once before catching themselves. I went back to work, because the barn wasn't going to fix itself, and this time, no one stopped me. But the real twist that came the next day.